For years, the biggest constraints in digital business were software talent, hardware availability, and network connectivity. Data centers could scale quietly in the background, adding servers, racks, and capacity as demand grew. Power was assumed to be available when needed. Today, that assumption is breaking down. Across the US business landscape, data center power constraints are emerging as a serious bottleneck, one that is shaping corporate strategy far beyond the technology sector. Data center power constraints are becoming a business bottleneck because digital growth is now colliding with physical limits. The most immediate driver of this shift is the surge in compute-intensive workloads. Cloud services, AI model training, real-time analytics, and high-density computing require vastly more power per square foot than traditional data center operations. Modern AI-focused data centers consume multiples of the electricity used by earlier generations. This has pushed power demand faster than utilities and infrastructure were designed to handle. Unlike servers or software, power cannot be provisioned instantly. Securing sufficient electricity involves grid capacity, transmission lines, substations, permitting, and long-term utility agreements. In many regions, this process takes years, not months. As a result, companies that want to expand digital capacity often find that hardware is available, capital is approved, but power simply is not. This constraint has moved data center planning from an operational issue to a strategic one. Businesses are discovering that their growth timelines are increasingly dictated by utility approvals rather than product demand. A company may have customers ready, workloads queued, and revenue potential waiting, yet expansion stalls because the local grid cannot support additional load. Geography has become a limiting factor. Data centers have historically clustered around population centers, network hubs, and major markets. Many of these regions now face grid congestion, aging infrastructure, and competing demand from electrification initiatives such as electric vehicles and industrial reshoring. Power is no longer abundant where connectivity is best. Companies are being forced to choose between optimal network placement and power availability. Cost pressures amplify the problem. As demand for electricity rises, pricing volatility increases. Utilities pass through infrastructure upgrade costs, peak demand charges grow, and long-term power contracts become more expensive. For data center operators and cloud-dependent businesses, energy costs are no longer marginal. They are a meaningful component of operating expenses that directly affect margins and pricing. Reliability concerns add another layer of risk. High-density data centers cannot tolerate power instability. Even short interruptions can disrupt services, damage equipment, or violate service-level agreements. As grids become more strained, companies must invest heavily in redundancy, backup generation, battery systems, and failover capacity. These investments increase capital intensity and slow deployment. Sustainability goals complicate the equation further. Many companies have committed to emissions targets and renewable energy usage. Securing clean power at the scale required for modern data centers is challenging. Renewable generation is often location-specific and intermittent. Aligning growth with sustainability commitments adds complexity to site selection and power procurement. Regulatory and permitting delays contribute to bottlenecks as well. New substations, transmission lines, and generation facilities face lengthy approval processes. Community opposition, environmental reviews, and policy uncertainty slow infrastructure expansion. Businesses find themselves competing not just with other companies, but with broader public priorities for limited grid resources. The ripple effects extend beyond technology firms. Industries such as finance, healthcare, manufacturing, and logistics increasingly rely on data-intensive operations. When data center capacity is constrained, innovation slows. New services are delayed, automation initiatives stall, digital transformation timelines stretch out, affecting competitiveness across the economy. This bottleneck is also reshaping investment decisions. Companies are reconsidering where to locate facilities, how quickly to roll out AI capabilities, and whether to build proprietary infrastructure or rely on third-party providers. Some are delaying projects not because of cost or demand uncertainty, but because power availability is unclear. In response, businesses are adapting their strategies. Some are pursuing smaller distributed data centers rather than large centralized facilities. Others are negotiating long-term power agreements years in advance, effectively tying growth plans to utility timelines. Some are investing directly in on-site generation or partnering with energy providers to secure dedicated capacity. Technology design is changing too. Efficiency has become a competitive advantage. Companies are optimizing software to reduce compute intensity, redesigning workloads to run during off-peak hours, and prioritizing energy-efficient hardware. Power consumption is now a design constraint, not an afterthought. Investors are paying attention. Data center operators with secure power access and long-term agreements are viewed as higher-quality assets. Projects without clear power paths face skepticism, regardless of demand projections. Power availability has become a gating factor in valuation and growth expectations. Importantly, this is not a short-term issue. Grid expansion and modernization take time. The pace of digital demand is outstripping infrastructure upgrades. Until those curves realign, power will remain a binding constraint. Why data center power constraints are becoming a business bottleneck comes down to a simple reality. The digital economy still runs on physical infrastructure. Data may be virtual, but computing is not. It requires electrons, wires, and capacity that cannot be scaled overnight. Corporate America is learning that future growth is no longer limited by ideas or capital alone. It is limited by the ability to secure reliable, affordable power. In an economy increasingly defined by data and computation, electricity has quietly become one of the most critical and scarce inputs.